What's the best thing about turbo cars? Yes, you guessed correct, boost. And what do you do when you get chopped by a real haggardy old 180SX owned by me? You turn up the boost. No. So we've got a very exciting episode for you guys today. Morgan is jumping into or down the rabbit hole of making his car go faster. So obviously, you know, he realized how fast 180s were. He wanted a little bit of that, so he decided, I need to up the boost on my car. And rather than doing the old slap a boost tee on it and just whine for your life, Morgan's done the right thing and decided to go with the Turbosmart eBoost 2. I'll let you explain more about it.
Yeah, so you could go for a manual boost tee, which I think is, have you got one of them? I think James
on the one. I don't think it's got on the 180.
Yeah, where it's just pretty much a little T-piece. You chuck it in, you can just wind up the boost however you want.
Keep clicking away.
The only thing is, if you don't have a boost gauge, you don't know what boost you're running, and I mean, that's kind of risky a lot of the time.
Right.
So I've gone with the Turbosmart eBoost 2, just because, you know, there's a lot of features it has. We can make it nice and safe. It's got like a boost cut thing, so if it goes over a certain amount of boost, it'll be like, ooh, you know, stay down there.
Not as fast as a 180.
I mean, I'm gonna do 2 boost groups. One of them's gonna be the stock, and I'm gonna still beat him.
Nah.
It's gonna happen. And then we'll turn it up to the 12 or whatever PSI I'll do, and I'll really beat you.
Rookie numbers.
And for everyone who's probably wondering, I do have a lot of other stuff, fuel, pumps, all that kind of stuff coming. Today is just to wind it up a little bit, make it a little bit fun, and then we'll tune it and all the proper stuff down in the future. So first of all, I think we'll mount the solenoid yeah, we'll do it on that side because we want to be as close as we can to the turbo because we got to plumb into the actuator and the intake there. So let's get over to there. Alrighty, so the wastegate here is mounted somewhat firmly. It is just held on by zip ties onto the actual mounting bracket that we bolted to here, and that is just because the bolts didn't come in the packet to mount it, so a little disappointed, but in the meantime we'll just use some zip ties like I said, and at a later date I'll just have to get some long little bolts to secure this nice and securely. In terms of the vacuum lines and where they're going, there is this one here that just goes down into the wastegate of the turbo. This one trails and goes to the intake, pressurized, so it's going to be after the turbo but before the throttle body. And then there's this little guy just hanging around there, and that's just the atmosphere. So that's all done. These vacuum lines are done. Wiring we'll get to and into the cabin. Also we'll get over to the other side to do another vacuum line which will go into the back of the gauge. Alright, so the vacuum line on this side, which this one, I don't know if you can see, there's a lot of stuff in the way, but there's just a T-piece, and this T-piece goes into here to get a nice pressure reading from the intake just before the throttle body here, and that pretty much trails around here into through the firewall and up into where the gauge is. I did previously have a boost gauge up where we're mounting the new eBoost 2, and that already had this vacuum line to it. So we're just going to piggyback off this one and plug it into the back of the eBoost, just because it's already there. It's quite easy. It is a see-through line, so doesn't look that great, but I mean, it's practical. It'll work for this application. So that's nice and sorted. Don't have to do anything here. So we'll get onto the inside and start mounting and wiring up the gauge. Alrighty, so I decided I'll just skip through the wiring and then just explain to you what I've actually done. So you can see I've just plugged in the eBoost 2 and we'll just see if it works shortly, but pretty much there was a bunch of wires. I only really used half of them because all the other ones are features that I'm not going to use, being like boost by gear and all those kind of things. So at the top here, I've just taken 2 of the wires out of the actual harness, and they're just the power and ground. The ground, I've just tapped off this. This is an existing wiring loom that comes along all the A-pillar and goes towards the back. So I've just spliced into the original, that wiring there, just for the power and ground. For the power, I've put it into the ignition, which is just this one here. So it just means that this doesn't turn on when the car's off, and it only will go on when the ignition's turned on, which is what you want. Then going down into the harness, if we move you down into here, it's a bit of a mess, but the harness comes out just here, and then the 2 wires that went into the engine bay, which is the solenoid, I've spliced it into here, into the correct wires in that harness there. It's honestly not too difficult. The hardest part is probably just trying to trace this wire through the dash and all that, but it's all in, and it's the moment of truth to see if it will start. So I'll bring it back up here, and here's the eBoost here, and we'll just see if it works. There you go. So it looks like it's all working. We do have to set it up, set the boost level, all that kind of stuff with this. But what I'm going to do now is mount this properly in the actual gauge, the A-pillar gauge holder there, and then do all the wiring, sort out all the wiring so it's not messy. So as you can see, the gauge is mounted in there. I did forget to film and actually forgot to do it. The vacuum line in the back of here. So I turned it on and it was 0 PSI, and I was like, why is it on 0 PSI? I turned the car on, it had no vacuum or anything. Turns out the vacuum line wasn't in the back of it. It was just dangling there, and I forgot to actually plop it in. So that is in now. It's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, it's just a vacuum line from the intake to the back here. There's a little nipple that it just goes into. So yeah, this is in now. One thing I've also noticed, so this is the stock S15 pillar, and it has a little, obviously pod holder. This little bit is meant to sit in front of it, but and it clicks in place, but the e-boost is just a little bit longer than most gauges, so that doesn't actually fit in properly. It just needs a little bit of a trim, just like a Dremel or something, to make that fit on there, but I'll do that at a later stage. I can't be bothered to do it now, so it's just going to sit like this at the moment. So what we'll do now is turn it on, jump into the settings, and set the boost levels, the boost cut, the max boost, warning, peak, all that kind of crap. Yeah, do that. I think I'll do probably 2 different boost levels. I want to probably one just still 7 psi, kind of just nice stock stuff. I'm just cruising to work. It's just nice cruising. And then we'll probably have the second boost setting will be probably like 12 psi. 12 I think will be nice and safe for the setup I've got at the moment. Yeah, so we'll get onto that, and I'll show you how to navigate some of these settings on this e-boost too, and set it up for my Silvia. So first of all, we'll just put the car onto accessories, just so we can go and do the setup. So we'll just go mode and setup at the same time. The first setting we got here is, you can see, OBS, and it's at 7. So OBS is the overboost shutdown, and it's set at 7 psi. So what we'll do here, because we want to achieve 12 psi, we'll maybe set the overboost at probably 14 psi. So we go mode to jump into it, and just increase it to 14 psi. So there we go, it's 14. Press mode again to set it. So you can see here, the overboost shutdown is set at 14. So the next thing we got here is, if we go up, is NSP. So NSP stands for number of set points, and the different set points are just the different boost groups or different boost levels, I guess. So because we're just going to do the 2, we're going to do standard 7 psi and then a 12 psi setting. We're just going to jump into this one and set it at 2 different boost groups. Now we'll go up to the next one, cylinder. Pretty, CYL, quite self-explanatory. It's at 4. Yes, it's an SR20. It's 4-cylinder, so we don't have to do anything there. So you can see here the e-boost is reading PSI SCL. SCL is the scale. This is where you choose if you want it to be in bar, PSI, or KPA. For this one, we just want PSI, so you can see it's already on PSI. So we'll just leave this one here. So if we go to the next one, so BGR, you can see it's set at 12 at the moment. We're actually going to leave it there. That's just because BGR stands for bar graph full scale. Now there's this little screen here at the bottom of this other one, and when you get on throttle and you're going through the boost, it's pretty much just like a loading bar, and we want it to be, the boost group is whatever you set this at is when it's at the full potential. So at 12 psi, which is the full boost we're going to be making, it'll be full pretty much. If you set this to say 7 psi, it just means that the bars, it'll go full, all bars will show when it hits 7 psi. But because we're going for 12 psi, we'll set it at 12 psi. And this next one, AL, is just the audible alarm. We're just going to leave it at the default one there. So LE1 is just an LED output 1. That's if you want to have, say, a shift light or something, and you can set it up, plug it into the back of this, have the LED wherever you want on your dash, and you can just set it up so the light will come on at a certain, say, RPM or whatnot. We don't have that today, so we're not going to set that up. So we'll just go to the next one. There's also a second output for LEDs, not using that as well. So we've just skipped over the last few just because we're not using them to do with the RPM and shift light, so I've just skipped through them. If you do want to jump in and do that for your car, Turbosmart do actually have some videos on how to set them, but today we're not going to do that. This next one here is PIN. PIN, you can set a passcode for this, but again, we're not going to do that either. And then there's this one, which is just RES. That's just a factory reset. If for whatever reason you want to reset the whole thing, it'll just wipe all the setup you've got. So you can click this one if you want to do a factory reset, but because we're setting it up, we obviously don't want to reset it. And then the end. So that's all the setup we're doing at the moment. Then we'll jump over to the boost menus and just set up the different boost groups, which is boost group 1 and 2, which will be the 7 psi and the 12 psi. Okay, so now we're actually going to set the PSI, and to do that we have to exit the setup menu and jump into the boost menu. So we can just hold mode to exit. You can see that we've exited that one and it's into the main live page. So what we'll do is then hold mode and then boost. So now you can see here we have the different boost groups. So this is boost group 1, we can go to boost group 2, and that's all we have. So we just got boost group 1 and 2. As you could probably remember before, we set just 2 different set points, which allows you to have different boost groups. You can have up to 6 on the Turbosmart eBoost 2. We're just going to have 2. Like I said before, we'll have a 7 psi and a 12 psi. Boost group 1, we'll probably just leave this at the 7 psi, the standard OEM boost level and wastegate. So we're not actually going to touch anything here, just because we'll want it all OEM. So we'll jump over to boost group 2 and then start editing this boost group. So we'll jump into that by clicking mode. Now it brings you to this, which says SB2, which is just the SB value, and then the number 2, which is the boost group we're in, so we're boost group 2. Now with this value, this is what you increase to pretty much increase your boost. There's a couple of different ways of doing this. One way is you can just go out and take your car for a spin, see how much boost it makes. It'll most likely just make the OEM boost, so this will probably make just 7 psi. And then you start upping the SP value. Now the SP value doesn't, say 1 unit of SP value does not equal 1 psi, so make sure you're not only putting a couple in or too much or so on. But this amount you'll just start increasing and going out testing how much boost it makes. So there's one way of going out testing how much it makes. Say it makes 8 psi, increase this, say 10 units, go out test it, it might make 11.5 psi. We'll come back, adjust it a little bit more, then we'll get our desired boost pressure of 12 psi. Another way of doing it is, the best way of doing this is ideally if you're on a dyno, you can just be cruising on the dyno doing it live, and you can actually, while you're cruising, be in this setting as you're, say, flooring it, you're hitting your boost level, and you can up the SP value live while you're doing it just to achieve that, which might be a bit quicker. Now there's a lot of trial error, going out, testing it, seeing what boost you have, upping it, lowering it, whatever you want. I'll probably just do that, I won't record it, but yeah, that's how you do it. So all you do is, you jump into it, you just would increase your SP value to however you want. And yeah, so there's that there. Then there's this next setting, which is GP2. 2 again is just the boost group you're in. We're in number 2. And then GP stands for gate pressure. Now gate pressure, ideally what we're going to do today is just have 3 psi below our target. So our target will be 12 psi. So for boost group 2, our gate pressure will be 9 psi. So what we'll do is we'll jump into this one, throw it up to 9 psi, and then mode to set it there. So that gate pressure is set. Okay, so that's all we're going to do at the moment for setting this up. So what I'll do is I'm going to leave it on this SP value of 0, go out, just test it, double check that it is just 7 psi, then I'll just start increasing the SP value. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'll come back and let you know the result. So, took it for a spin. It feels great. Feels really good. Oh yeah. It comes into boost quicker, because before it was like 4,500 RPM. It'd start getting into boost. It felt like an NA car. Like it didn't feel that great. But now I don't know when it comes into boost, but I just know it's a lot quicker.
Not as quick as a 180 though.
Oh, I think it will, for sure. So yeah, it feels great. I jumped through the settings. I can't remember what the SP value was, what I put it at, but it's pretty much 12 psi now. And then the other boost group things, just the OEM one. But yeah, it feels great. So,
Will it be enough to tackle the mighty 180?
100% it would be.
No way, no.
Yeah.
Mine's a little pocket rocket. But yes, there's been plenty more coming for Morgan's S15 and the 180. It is going to be a little bit of a battle of the SRs to see who is the superior SR, I guess.
And driver.
Okay,
We'll see.
all right. But comment below, who do you think is going to win? Is it going to be my 180 or Morgan's shitty, turdy little thing behind us? If you put 180 down, I might give you a free sticker. But most importantly, hit that subscribe button, hit like if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you in the next Project B video.